Hello, my fellow sovereigns, and welcome back to another episode of the Crown Yourself podcast. This episode, I know I say every episode excites me, but this episode in particular, because I have had the pleasure of working with Joanne Getson over the course of the past 6 months. Joanne comes from the world of the entertainment industry, which, as you know, has been rocked these past few months with the SAG strikes, with the writers' strikes, with all of the challenges and changes that are being introduced with AI. And come January of this past year, Joanne pivoted her entire career, leveraging her skill set from unscripted TV and scripted production, including shows such as Mob Wives, Southern Charm, and movies like The Wrestler, into a powerful business that is now leveraging the things that she does best with video and marketing strategies and developing products and programs for business owners who want to augment their current brand mission and revenue by expanding the storytelling capacity of their business through video. In this episode, a few of my favorite things that you are absolutely going to just grab onto, and I want you to really listen for, is the skill set that improvisational comedy actually provided Joanne in being able to create and leverage this massive pivot from employee to entrepreneur, as well as her drive and value for staying curious and how she aligned her values personally to create the solution and fill the niche that was needing her exact skill set. And if you're currently in an industry that's being radically disrupted by AI, and basically that's all of them, then I encourage you to look at this interview and listen to how can you leverage the skill set, tools, resources that you have to create a new path, to pioneer a new way forward into this new era that we all are entering. And with that, I give you Joanne Getson. Welcome to the Crown Yourself podcast, where together we build your empire and transform your subconscious stories about what's possible for your business, body, and life. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of CrownYourself.com, and I'm a master mindset coach, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, known to my clients as a game changer. Each week, you get the conscious leadership strategies you need to help you reign with courage, clarity, and confidence so that you too can make the income and impact you deserve. Imagine this podcast as your royal invitation to step into your full potential and reign in your divine purpose. Your sovereignty starts here, and your reign is now. Joanne, I am so excited to have you on the Crown Yourself podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here. This is my first podcast.
I love being the first. So, do you know the last person who was a first podcaster? They went on to build a $30 million empire. So,
all right, I will take those odds.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, because I mean, you come from a deep dive background in television, but now you've transitioned through together into doing something completely different, and yet the skill set still translates.
Oh yeah, well it's I have been in television for over 15 years. I went to film school and then worked in New York and then in Los Angeles on all kinds of productions, and I've seen it all. And this year was quite a year of transition. I had some loss and just decided, okay, time to do something else, and worked with you. And then we brainstormed some things, that were in my passion and, industries that are more in line with what I love to do and values. And then started to realize that, okay, what I really love is fitness and pole dancing in particular, pole fitness. And how can I build a business from that? And one thing led to another. And right now I am building a platform, video on demand and a streaming platform for Legendary Studio in Las Vegas. And it's been pretty amazing to realize that everything I've been working on all the skills I've learned in the last 15 years are transferable to something that's more in line with what I love to do. And yeah, I'm on a different path right now, building something new.
And that's your skill set, though. Like that's always been your thing. Is I mean, you worked in TV, but if you've never worked in entertainment, then there are different stages to production, and you were particularly skilled at like building the things of in development and production pieces, and you've done it all. But how did you come upon that skill set that is a thing that you love, that is building something new? Where did that come from?
I don't know. I think I've always been the person that likes to build something from scratch. If it's what I'm doing at work or if I'm doing something around my house, I like having a problem and then building it, finding a solution and then building it, and thinking outside of the box. And I like exploring new worlds. I like traveling. I like asking questions. I like trying things that I've never tried before just because, okay, that's something new and something I'm afraid of. I'm going to give that a shot. I mean, maybe it's a sense of adventure, but this idea of trying something new, what else is out there, and asking questions and just being curious. I've always been that way, and I will always be that way, I hope. And I think when you can be curious, it leads to new things. It leads to new experiences, and it opens up a whole new world. If you just ask, okay, what else is there? Just keep poking at it.
And I think that that's like one of the things that I love about your mindset that has just been such a catalyst for your very quick success to like flip from being used to being an employee into an entrepreneur is you have such coachability because you're curious and you're willing to ask the question and you're willing to go there. And that curiosity is something. Did you find that you had that in childhood, that you would just deconstruct or get curious, or who taught you that?
Oh, wow. You know what? My dad had this quote, and he would always tell us, he'd always ask us when we were afraid of something, or we were going to try something new and we weren't sure if we were good at it, or if we were going to go down a ski slope that was a little bit too challenging for us. He would tell us, or he would ask us, he said, what's the worst that could happen? And that stuck with me, that, okay, you maybe want to try this thing. Okay, you have the skills. It's not like you're just, diving off the back of a boat into shark infested waters. What's the worst that can happen? What do you need to do to get there? But is your fear valid, or can you do things to prepare for that fear, but give it a shot more than anything? I think that's an important thing that I've always carried with in life is that. And anytime I'm about to try something new, or I face some adversity, I think of that is what is the worst that could happen. And usually it's not as scary as I initially think about that. I usually think it is. It's something that you can break down into pieces and then compartmentalize it a little bit.
What was the biggest aha that you found throughout our coaching journey together?
It's that there's more possibilities out there. I think if you're in any industry for as long as I've been, I think it's really easy to get some tunnel vision on what the trajectory is, what's next, how is the industry changing, where do you fit into that, how do you fit into that, and then where do you go from there? And I think the same kind of, if there's a moment where you can ask, or if there's a moment where you can step back and say, what else is there? There's a lot more possibility out there than what you immediately think there is. It's taking that leap, but it's also looking at what I think it was really helpful to look at what I've done and what I've built and what I enjoyed working in television. And those skills are definitely transferable, but it's just the suggestion that there are more options out there.
Yeah, and the power of possibility. I know when I shifted from when I had like my moment, like I thought like, oh, I had my first film that I co-wrote with the director, like produced, distributed, and like I was at the premiere and red carpet and all that, and we just found out I got picked up by Lionsgate and was going to be on Netflix. And I was like, in that moment, I was like, I should be 100% fulfilled, but I'm not. And that moment of recognizing, okay, where is a skill transferable? Like what really is a skill that I had like as a writer? And the fact that I can see people's stories and that training as a writer and an actor and in improv, which I know you've done as well, which I want to ask about, and it is like that ability to be adaptable in the scene and flexible. So it is such a cornerstone, and it allows you to pivot industries. It doesn't just allow you to pivot in a scene where you're like doing what was it called? Shape work? Where you make things out of where you like pen something, you're holding a topic up.
Object work.
Object work. Yeah.
Coffee.
I always sucked at that. Rightly so. But it was the catalyst of improv, of being able to take a risk. And so how has improv really trained you as a leader?
I have fully embraced, I love the idea of yes and. And even when you're in a creative environment, you want to encourage brainstorming and encourage building on ideas. And not every idea is going to be, a game changer. But it's important to foster creativity, and it's really important to foster teamwork. And I think nothing does that better than improv, because this idea that every idea or every suggestion is a gift, and in improv, they actually call it a gift. And you build onto it. It doesn't mean you have to accept it, like that's it, but that gift and that idea exists. And what do you do with that? And how does that acceptance of a gift or an idea lead on to yes and? Okay, so we've got this thing. How do you build onto that with the next thing? And you can end up with something totally different. And there's a lot of beauty in that idea. I mean, I have tried to use that in professional life, in my personal life, and then when I'm building, and just life in general, that yes and, particularly just suggestions that you don't like immediately. What is this thing that you're given, and then what do you do with it after this? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work, but you have to accept that that thing was given to you and then build from it.
Yeah. And I love the concept of yes. And I actually think if we were to go like full on esoteric, that it is the basis of manifestation and the basis of like most spirituality, quite frankly, of like the manifestation of creating something from nothing. That idea is a gift, and it's the acceptance of it that then, like you said, you build off of. And you faced a ton of challenges during our time together. How did you yes and those?
Well, I lost my dad earlier in this year, and I had some setbacks professionally too. And I actually picked up meditation because it was a 1-2 punch for me. And I started meditating, and I found Maitri meditation, which really embraces this idea of, well, what I took from it is like, I'm given this thing and I don't know what it is, and it's awful, but it exists. And then what do you do with that? That something beautiful can happen to it. And sometimes it's just accepting that it's there. And, that was helpful. And I think I have found many times in my life that when bad things happen, that the unexpected things that can come from it can have meaning. And it's not always that they're good, and it's not that it's always going to be better, but there are possibilities out there if you accept that there's a break and that there's an end to something, if you also open up to other opportunities. I don't know. I don't want to sound like it's always easy and things are, happy-go-lucky all the time, because I don't think that's true. But I do think there's something that can happen when when you're faced with a challenge, if it's that yes and, or if it's, just seeing, okay, this exists. Now what do I do with that?
Yeah. Yeah. That, the yes and really stems from one of my favorite questions that I'm pretty sure I asked it of you when we were coaching together. was the question of how is this the best thing that ever happened to you? And honestly, like in certain situations, you're like, this is an asshole question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, like when we look for the silver linings, when we look for the positive, when we look for how can we shape the meaning of this experience, as sucky as this experience it is, how can we shape the meaning for ourselves to really direct us in the way that we want it to go, that to guide us so that it doesn't consume us and that we don't get depleted, but that we're able to find that positive forward motion that's the job of coaches, is to keep forward focused on the vision and the vision beyond the current circumstances. And you did such a beautiful pivot in such a quick time, quite frankly, like to be able to work with one of the major pole dancers in her field into doing something that you absolutely love. And so what is the skill set that you were so easily able to transfer over?
Oh, so many things. It was not just with this platform that I'm building for Pole Fitness Studio. It's a lot of development. You know, what Fania wanted to do was go online, take her classes and go online so that people could access the studio in some way. It would be for current students and also people who have left the studio and those who just know her in the world. And then what would that look like? So working with her, I guess what I brought was just asking, what do you want to make? You know, just asking a lot of questions, which is something that I do like to do when I'm trying to understand a world more, is what do you want? What do you envision? Who do you want to use this platform? How do you want people to use it? And then research. And I just went back and I researched what else was out there, who else has a platform, what is her competition like, and then how do we build something that represents what that studio is, that was very authentic to the community, to the current students, and it represented what that brand is, and also what it could be and how it could grow. So I think those are the skills I brought to her.
Yeah, I think one of the things is the curiosity that, like, I mean, you coming from your background in reality TV and docuseries, like you constantly use this phrase when we were working together called understanding a world. So give me some idea of what it means to understand a world. How did you as a reality producer go about understanding a world? Because I actually think that for the coaches and authors and CEOs listening to this podcast, like I think you're actually going to give them some deeper perspective because you don't come from that industry, and that can definitely be applied and applicable to their work.
Yeah. It is so fun to get tossed into a world. And if it's a business or a place or a foreign location, and just try to figure out what's going on. It's just observing and asking a lot of questions and seeing, being observant. Each business does something different. Each city has its own vibe, its own language, and it's noticing what those differences are. I think there's something like when you pull up to, when I first pulled up to Pole Fitness Studio, I had a friend who takes classes there. So we talked a little bit about what that was like. But I pulled up to the class and you get all these opinions on what's inside and who takes classes. And, it's in Vegas, so it's going to have a certain flair to it. And you really have to let that go and just kind of see what's actually going on, because what's presented and what's there are two different things. So the longer you can sit with something and just talk to students or teachers to get their opinion on things, or I was developing reality shows, just listening, asking questions, getting a lay of the land before making any judgments, I think is the most important thing. And then take some time to let that sit and to decipher, okay, these are some patterns that I'm seeing over time, or these are some phrases, and this is what the world is. I think those are the best ways to keep it authentic. And also kind of identify what the problems are, what the are. Because, really in television, what you're looking for are those challenges. You want those dramatic moments in those stories. So it doesn't appear right away. And that takes a little while for it to reveal itself. And the longer you can just be observant, ask the right questions, you'll see where the problems are and, what's at stake. And it's true for any industry or, for any leader, just to explore what, maybe what needs to happen or just listen, sit and listen, I think is huge.
So what are the right questions? So you said the right questions. So like giving some examples that you've used when you're working on location, when you were in reality.
Well, here, I'm going to give you the typical TV answer because it depends. Okay. Anything in the television depends, but because, that's so tough. It's not a cut and dry answer, really. I like to see, I'm always curious, who's in charge, who makes the decision, who influences them, who has a lot of sway in a leader's mind. I think that's important. Maybe lingo, what the process is, those kind of things I'm interested about. And also who are some of the regulars. But, it depends. Everything's different. Each industry is so different.
Yeah. And yet I can see how those, because you know me, I'm the pattern, like you can see all the cross patterns. And I'm like, what you just described, I hope that every coach listening was taking notes, because those questions are like, when you're thinking of coaching a leader, you do want to know who's influencing them, who's in their sphere of influence, whether it's their family or their partner or their relationships or their kids, like who's impacting the way that they make decisions, how do they make decisions, and who is like, what are the roles of every other person who's a supporting cast in their life. And then when you see that, it really provides a backdrop to understand the challenges that the person is facing. And yes, in TV, while you go for like, let's get that moment in coaching, we're like, let's go for the breakthrough. So we don't necessarily want to film the breakthrough necessarily, but go for the breakthrough of finding like, okay, let's break through the pattern instead of incentivizing drama around it. But that those questions are so transferable for every leader to be able to better understand if you're going to be doing business with a partner or you're coaching a leader or a CEO. Understanding that sphere of influence is essential. Mm-hmm. And apparently even on docuseries and unscripted series. So
yeah, you may not get the table flip in coaching, but
ideally not.
No, you do not. But it exists in its own way. There's going to be a table flip in their own way.
So I know that you've never worked with a coach before.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. What was that incentive to tip you over the edge to like looking for coaching, looking for guidance, looking for support? What were you looking for?
It was I was starting to feel like I needed to do something different, and I was having a lot of challenges in where I was working, and I was just thinking like, what's next? What am I going to do? Where do I grow from here? And it was a good time to start thinking about not what else I can do, but like what's next for me, and how do I develop some skills to get to the next phase, to the whatever that is. I did not think I was going to transition in a way that I'm building my own thing. That was not,
I think you literally told me, like, I don't know if I want to build my own thing.
Yeah. I just didn't think I had it in me, but I do. And that surprised me. But I think the impetus of it really was thinking about what's next for me. Because I was a little stuck. It's like you get this tunnel vision on what you've done, what you should be doing, what's the next phase. And there's more to that. And it was so helpful to work with you and to explore other ideas outside of in different industries and things that are more I'm more passionate about, but things that are more in line with some outside interest.
Yeah. And I think a big piece was values.
Yeah, that was key. I actually have, from when we worked on my values, I have them taped up in front of my desk, and I look at them every morning, and I rearrange them every week depending on what I'm doing, and I put them in a different order depending on what that week is. I think the values are key, and they'll change and they take on different meaning. But I think reminding myself of what's important to me that I want to build and I want to be remembered for, that's so important.
Yeah. And values, if you've never done any deep values work, it's like, because we can be people can sometimes be very glib about their values of like, oh, these are the corporate values that we stand by. But unless there's any frame of reference or context or meaning behind it, it's like, okay, great, that's what you stand for, but are you actually living that? And when you can look at the values from like, well, how do you actually live? Like what actually pisses you off, and what actually do you love? What actually like really incentivizes you, motivates you internally? Because it's not that you lose motivation, it's that people lose focus. And when you can look at that through that lens, then that's where you start to get a little bit of clarity on what are those values that actually move you, because your values are a subconscious processing system. They're a filter that you make decisions through. And if certain things and external circumstances or jobs or industries that you're in are not aligning with those values, there's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be struggle. There's always going to be strife. And it's in that allowance and acceptance, that yes and of saying, okay, well, these are my values and these are what I think the industry or my job or my boss or like whomever is influencing, this is what I think their values are, and this is where we're not in alignment. Then that can give you clarity that it's not a you thing, it's not a them thing, it's a values thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you find the values thing so often in corporate culture, but it's not something that people do as an individual, and it's important. Like, where do you spend your time? How do you spend your time? Who do you spend that time for? That's really important to understand and to question. We're so much more than what we do 9 to 5. And if we don't define what those values are, what our values are ourselves, then we're going to just accept whatever's given. And then that's, where do you find fulfillment in that? It's important to understand what's important to yourself and value that. And they change, like the values take different priorities every week, but understanding that and respecting that those are as important as any other influences was a huge lesson that I had to learn, and I'm glad I did.
What are you noticing as that common thread of that like main value that it doesn't really change positions that much?
People have their own interests and their own personality, and they bring their own gifts. Everyone has different priorities based on their backgrounds or just, their experiences. And I think it's important to respect those individual qualities, because that's what makes us unique. And that what makes people special, and then also what they bring to a team and to different environments. I guess that's kind of fun. How everybody's different.
Yeah, allowing for that diversity of not just race or gender, but diversity of thought, diversity of value structure changes the game.
Yeah.
I had one client that I was working with, and he was like, why do I have to have a hour-long conversation with each of my teammates? And I said, I pulled them on their values, and I was like, because all of them value significance and contribution, and they want to contribute their voice. So they all value the same thing. So there was no diversity of people who could just take a plan and execute. They wanted to feel significant in the execution.
Yeah.
So now that you're on the outside of the entertainment industry, and I know we have a lot of listeners in California and Hollywood who are a part of the entertainment industry, looking on the outside with your skill set that you have of pattern recognition, with the skill set that you have of looking at a world and understanding it, how now that you're on the outside, what do you see has changed or is different about that world?
Yes, it's been really funny being on the outside of the entertainment industry, because I never fully appreciated how corporate it is. I think it's easy to think, or you get these stars in your eyes when you're starting out about, okay, I can make this thing, I can be creative, and it's actually not that easy. There's a lot of essentially entertainment's there for making money, and there's a lot of power with the corporations and the studios, and that changes things. And it's interesting being on the out and just seeing how the business is done, and just noticing, where the business decisions are made. It's also been a lot more fun to watch television. I still pick apart scenes. I still watch television, and I go to the movies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I look at continuity and stuff, and I think I have questions. But I'm eating the popcorn more when I'm watching things now, and it's not so much of a business, thinking about, how it was made, and what was the deal that was made to what deal happened to make it get to the air. So it's been a lot more fun to watch TV and film.
I've heard that from so many people in entertainment who pivoted, who just were like, agreed. They're like, oh my gosh, I can now look at it without studying it. Yeah, I saw the same when I used to study all the old movies and all the old movie actors for Marlon Brando and James Dean and Audrey Hepburn, for like, how are they acting and all that. And once I was out, I was like, oh, I can just enjoy Breakfast at Tiffany's because it's a good movie. And then I watched it later, like 10 years later, and I was like, oh, there's some disturbing topics in this movie that I didn't really pick up on.
It's true. I think I'm eating more popcorn at the movies now than I did before.
Yeah. So has the focus pivoted now that you're working with pole dancing studios? So has the focus, like, now are you looking at pole dancing, and are you enjoying pole dancing as much?
Oh, just as much. Pole dancing will always be my passion, and taking classes is just as fun, if not more fun than it's ever been. But I'm thinking about, anytime I go to a yoga class, or I take a spin class, I always think, how would you shoot this, and how can this instructor make more money, or create their own brand and make videos and do their own training program, because it's so much easier than I think people realize right now. And my head now, instead of thinking about movies, my head now is thinking about, okay, how could I watch this at home? How could I take the spin class that I like so much and watch it at home, and also do it, 5 times a week, or I would keep up a regimen. So, I'm thinking about fitness and being active in a very different way now than I used to.
I think what's really interesting is the difference in questions and the difference in your energy, between your energy when you talk about the entertainment industry, and oh my gosh, how you lit up like crazy, like a Christmas tree, when you were talking about pole dancing and fitness, and the perception of, when you're watching TV, you're thinking of like, what are the deals were being made when you were in that industry. But even though you're in a different industry, you're now you still light it up when you're talking about, oh, I'm watching how I could do the classes differently. I'm watching how I could make this better, how I could build them into a brand. And the light is turned on of an undertone of encouragement and hope that there's something beyond the deal room that you can do, is what it feels like for me.
I've always loved dance. And I love watching dancers. As a kid, I took ballet class. I was either going to be a ballerina or an astronaut. And because I love how people move. And I think I've learned so much from from dance. I've learned that there's everybody moves differently. It's really fun to explore how your body moves and different shapes it can make and different waves or angles it can make, even as a non-dancer, someone who is not flexible at all. I've learned so much from dancing, and I've learned so much from that community, and I've gotten a huge sense of empowerment from the pole dancing community, and I would love to share that with people. And not just pole, like any kind of movement that people have been able to find meaning for. I think it's great that the people can find meaning and strength, besides just physical strength, mental strength from whatever exercise they're doing. And I would love to share that and help others and help studios do that, because I know how beneficial it is that I've spent years and years dancing and being frustrated at it. I think there's a lot that people can learn from doing things outside of work and building those communities of things that they're interested in.
Oh, you speak to my heart, Joanne, about the power of hobbies and having something outside of your work. And I did a post on this, and it actually got a lot of response where I was like, your work is not your hobby. I love coaching and I love writing and speaking and all that. That's not my hobby. I tried wakeboarding the other week and I practically ripped my shoulder out, but I love those athletic endeavors. So what are the hobbies that you rediscovered that you had? Did you have time for hobbies when you were in the entertainment industry?
It was hard. Those were the things that went first. It was, if when you're working in entertainment, it's 24/7. You're always on call in some capacity. And those hobbies, those things that are really important, that also help you grow and just get that dead mind time. It's sad. We have to say goodbye to those. And I regret that I let those things go. Because I think when it comes to development and also just feeling empowered, those are the most important things. Those are that should be number one is health and well-being and mental health. And that has to always be key in your life. And it's very easy to let those go.
Yeah. And I know that especially when you're in any sort of demanding job, whether it's entertainment or CEO of a Fortune 500 company, or just running a small business, feeling like you have to do all the things and be all the spaces. I know when I was, when I had my e-commerce company, I was the first to let my health go, gain weight. My hair was falling out from stress. I was waking up at 3:00 in the morning with sweats to respond to a customer email. It was not a pretty sight. And my loving fiance, now husband, had the wherewithal to say, "Is it worth it?" Mm-hmm. And fortunately, I was then asked by my business partner only a few short weeks later to leave the company, and he wanted to take it over and run it solo. But I was so in hindsight, I'm so grateful that he gave me that out. Otherwise, I would have I'm the type where I will fight it to the death. I'm yes, we'll go down with the ship. But the fact that he let me go have a lifeboat, and I was great. Okay, off I go to row to another shore and not sink to the bottom like Titanic. But the that prioritizing hobbies was a huge transformation piece, and prioritizing health as a priority and as a hobby, to do things that are physical, active, and fun, that can be those hobbies that you pursue. So what are some of your favorite hobbies that you rediscovered? Pole dancing, obviously.
Pole dancing. I've also gone back to hiking, which was really fun. And then, part of it is this year I was really lucky to go on a backpacking trip. So I really had to focus on the hiking and train for that. I have not gone back to improv yet. That will have to be the next thing. There's only so much you can do in a day. But I will say, just getting back to to pole dancing has just changed my life. There's something about listening to music and moving and being with other people who enjoy that and enjoy that challenge. That just is that's brought a lot of joy this year.
Yeah. And I've seen that joy like ripple through you, and your energy has radically transformed. How do you manage your energy now? Now that you're running a business, growing it, what's the difference?
Time management is really important for me. I've always been very good at keeping a calendar and scheduling meetings, but now I actually block off times. I kind of know what my rhythm is for when I can focus and get things done, and when I should take calls, and when it would be better to do more things that need a lot of detail. And so I structure my day. It always starts out. Now I'm really lucky because now I start every day doing some kind of exercise, and that's really important. And then I can start my day and do emails, and then but I block off my time and my calendar more, and in kind of like a big picture way more than I used to, because it before it would be okay, whenever meetings are scheduled, they're scheduled, and now I can make some decisions about when is my focus better for certain things, and I try to lean into that as much as I can.
What a powerful question. Like, and you said the word that is now like the motto that I am beating the drum for currently, because I just got back from the Brendon Burchard's coaching summit, and Natalie Ellis, the founder of Boss Babe, spoke at it, and she spoke about rhythms. And like as soon as I got back, my rhythm felt so disrupted because I had a toddler who was crying for me, and then my 6-year-old was like, "Oh, mommy, I want to show you this," and I felt constantly like I was like, I'm feeling so upbeat with my rhythm, and recognizing how to develop that rhythm, and that rhythm is a team, and that's one of your skill sets that you're so good at, is building the rhythm of the team so that you all kind of beat to the same drum and row in the same direction. How did you develop that within a team? Because I know you've done you did extraordinary work when you were doing that at your former job, and you're still doing that now with a team of pole dancers and camera crew and all that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love working with people. I really do. I love brainstorming. And one of the things that I love about working in entertainment, the piece was always working with people who are experts at different things, and understanding knowing what we were going to build, and then I guess you hear the same things again and again, asking them, "This is what we're building. What do you think?" And yes, ending it. And so taking each department and then building onto that, because different teams and different departments are experts at something. And I really love that diversity of ideas from all people. Like, what have they seen in the past, and what do they think could make this scene or this project better or run smoother? And then pulling on that. It's a lot of asking questions, and then there's always that management part of getting deadlines. That's hard, but I think it's I like the challenge of realizing that everyone's schedule is going to be a little different, and how they have to hear something and they have to hear feedback is different, and respecting that, and then trying to figure out how to communicate to people. I like that challenge.
And how would you communicate with your team? What are some of your best practices for how to communicate with a team that you're developing?
I think it's so important for everyone to feel included, that all ideas are good ideas, or there's something to be tossed out, and then feeling that everyone's running in the same direction. This is the thing that we're building. This is what we're doing today. This is what we're shooting today. This is what needs to get done. What do you think? Does a schedule work for you? Should we think about different angles or a different way to shoot it? Or, what else needs to be done to this project to get it done on time? I like to keep the communication channels open. I think, so keeping things friendly and keeping teams engaged and feeling like making sure people feel like they're part of the team is important.
What did you find were the factors for engagement? How did you get engagement? Because I mean, especially in corporate, like 86% of the corporate workforce is like disengaged, studies show. So how did you get your team members to engage at a higher level? And how are you doing that still?
I don't know. I think I'm a goof, actually. And maybe I do. And I have no problem being the goofball and being the person who's silly and just, sharing a silly story or a meme or, I don't know, people. So it's so fun if we're serious all the time. I think it's important for people to feel comfortable and so I don't mind being the goofball.
I think that is such a testament, like, and a skill set that so many teams actually could use. It's one of laughter and fun is one of the 15 commitments of conscious leadership. And that commitment to creating fun and dropping a meme, dropping a funny story, being able to laugh, it is a game changer when you stop taking business so seriously. Like, I took business very, 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 very seriously for the first couple of years as I was growing my coaching business because I was a new mom and I thought everything had to be serious and, otherwise someone was going to die, AKA a baby. And I was, and then when I realized, okay, no, that's not the case, and started inviting more fun and having more play, became so much more successful and just so much more fulfilled being able to have those laughs and have that goofball. So, I mean, it sounds like that's a skill set, Joanne, that you have that is so naturally you, that it just is who you are, but it's actually a testimony for how you lead teams so well. Is you bring in the fun, and thus people want to be on the fun team. They want to be in the place where they are feeling appreciated, and it's an exciting place to work.
I hope so. Because it's just, what we do is hard, and, keeping track of details or building things, it's not easy. And, problem solving is not easy. And coming up with new ideas, not easy, but it's important to have fun, or try to have fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, to try to bring in the fun. And how are you bringing in the fun to your new business?
Oh, I mean, how can you not have fun? I just filmed a burlesque choreography, and I think about that teacher every single day. And anytime she would kind of lose her train of thought, she would just go like, and shimmy. And so I still laugh at that because, yeah, you know what? I may not always get every word right or say something, but at the end of the day, just shimmy. It's okay. And she had so much fun. I have fun every day I'm filming with these instructors. They're just such great artists, and it's just fun. It's every day is fun.
Oh, I love it, Joanne, and I have loved this interview and getting to see your face again and hear about all your success with all the shoots that you're doing in the platform. Are you ready to enter into some rapid fire?
For sure. I don't know.
Who is your favorite female character in a book or a movie, and why?
Oh, so Colette's an author who wrote at the turn of the century, and she had this quote that you will do foolish things, but do them with enthusiasm. And I always think that's a great thing to just keep in mind.
Oh, I love that quote. I love it. That is so phenomenal. Yes, because basically the archetype of the fool, you're throwing yourself off a cliff and you're not quite sure what exactly you're doing, but you trust that you're going to have to figure it out on the way down, and you might as well enjoy the way down and the view.
Exactly. Yeah. And she lived that way, and she joined the circus. So how can she not be a role model?
That's amazing. I have to investigate this woman now. Like, you are the first person to bring her up to me in almost on over 200 podcast episodes that we've done. So Oh, I'm so excited. What woman would you want to trade places with for a day, alive or when she was alive in her time in history? See what she saw, hear what she heard, and feel what it felt to be her.
Hmm. If I could be switch places with anyone, I think I would have to say my great grandmother. And just because she came, I don't know, the story that I know is that she came from Europe and then she lived and moved to a sod house in South Dakota. And there is something about what that experience must have been like that I'm just curious. I don't know much about her, and that must have been a pretty crazy story. And I would just like to meet her for a day.
Yeah. And so she lived in a sod house?
Yeah, yeah. There's actually a plateau in South Dakota named after her family, and she was fine because she came from a lot of money, and then she moved to the sod hut, and everything was going well, and she had lots of kids. But then there was a stampede, and the cow ran away, and then she's like, "Okay, we're moving out." So, you know, I'm sure this happened, and I'm sure it was a crazy life, but I would love to meet someone who was like, "Oh, let's move away from nice Europe and to North Dakota and live in a hut." I would love to meet someone who made that decision.
That's definitely a pioneering decision for sure.
Yes.
What is your morning routine like now?
Sure. Well, I do like to wake up, and if I've realized that fitness is so important, so I wake up pretty early, 6:30, and I always go to the gym. And I either going to go to swimming or spin class, and then I come back and then eat breakfast and start my day. But my day's never complete without doing something active in the morning.
I feel you on that one, sister. What is your evening routine to set you up to wake up so early?
I usually fall asleep on the couch by 10. I'm not that interesting and past 9. We're better off connecting in the morning.
Yep. So what do you define to be your kingdom?
I have this very nice little home office that's my kingdom. And I have all my toys. I have it on my desk. So I have all the toys and little tchotchkes that I've collected over time. So I look at them. And then right behind me, I have a larger space that's I actually have a pole in my house. And that's my kingdom. Like, this place defines me, where I work. And then the fact that I can dance at any moment. That's authentically who I am. And art and lots of art on the wall. That makes me happy.
Yeah, that's so beautiful because I don't see any production offices offering a pole, and I think HR might have something to say about that.
They should.
Last but not least, how do you crown yourself?
I think I crown myself when I realize that I too can do this. And if I take a moment to realize what I've learned, what I've developed, and what I'm building now, and just being really respectful and understanding. I'm a journey in progress. I'm a story in progress too, and I think respecting that and appreciating that is how I crown myself.
Joanne, I am so honored. You did so amazing on your first podcast interview. It's almost like you've done this before. Well, how can we find you? How do we work with you if we have a local studio and would like to build out an online presence?
Oh, sure. So I have a website. It's my name, Joanne dash Getson. So it's JOANNE dash GETSON.com, and you can find me on there, and there's ways to get in touch. And then I hope everyone checks out this website that I'm building. So I'm working with Pole Fitness Studio in Las Vegas, and the website that's going to be up and running is polefitnessonline.com, and everything is going to launch on October 15th. So the new website, the video on demand, the streaming classes, it's all going to happen that week. So hope everybody checks it out and shimmies.
Well, that sounds like so much fun because now I have a pole. My pole has its final resting place that just happens to be in my children's homeschooling room.
Yes, yes.
They love climbing it.
I'm sure they do. I mean, kids would love this thing.
So it has been such a pleasure having you on. Everyone, I encourage you to go check out Joanne's website and what she's building with pole fitness online. It is truly extraordinary to see how you take one skill set from being an expert in TV and transfer that into some kick-ass pole videos and trainings that you get to take. So crown yourself with the opportunity of enjoying these pole videos and these amazing instructors that Joanne is working with. As always, remember to own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and start creating a bigger impact now by sharing this with a friend. Just by doing that one simple act of kindness, you are creating a royal ripple to support more people in their sovereignty. And if you're not already following on social media, connect with me everywhere at crownyourself.now for more inspiration. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules. Because today, you crown yourself.